My name's Greg. I turned 50 last month. You'd think that after 25 years of marriage, 2 kids, and a life built around family, I'd get a cake, a dinner, maybe even a surprise. Hell, I would have been happy with a handwritten card. But instead, I came home from work to an empty house. No decorations. No food. No music. Just silence. No wife. No kids. Not even a note. I figured maybe it was part of the surprise. Maybe they were hiding. I even looked in the garage and the backyard. But there was no one. I texted my wife, Madison. No response. Called her. Straight to voicemail. Tried my son, Ryan. Nothing. Then my daughter, Emma. She's 20. The one who usually sends me random YouTube shorts at all hours. Nothing from her either. I waited. At 7:30 p.m., I sat alone at the kitchen table, a bottle of whiskey in front of me, unopened. I still believed there was a surprise coming. I told myself maybe they'd just run late. Maybe they were picking something up. Then I checked Instagram. There it was. A photo of all of them, Madison, Ryan, Emma, Madison's parents, and her sister, all smiling on a white sand beach with cocktails in hand. The caption? Family vacation mode activated. He won't even notice we're gone, LOL. That was me. My son had posted that. On my birthday. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. I didn't comment. Didn't call. Didn't text. I just kept scrolling. More photos. More smiles. Jet skis. Poolside selfies. Fancy dinners. Hashtags like hashtag family bonding and hashtag beach vibes. Meanwhile, I was at home, still wearing my work boots, wondering how the hell I got erased from my own life. 25 years. I paid for Emma's college, $500 a month into her funds since she was born. Covered Ryan's apartment down payment last month for $1,000 I didn't really have. I gave them everything. And now I was nothing more than a joke in a beach caption. The rage didn't come right away. First, there was disbelief. Then sadness. Then something colder, calculation. I poured a glass of whiskey. Then another. Then I opened my laptop. I started gathering data. Screenshots. Bank statements. A full timeline of every time they lied to me the past month about planning something special. I pulled the last 6 months of transactions from our joint savings. There it was, a $4,000 withdrawal last Friday. The exact same amount I gave Ryan for his apartment. Coincidence? No shot. I kept digging. Found a credit card under Madison's name I didn't know about. Logged in with an old password we used to share. $13,000 in debt. Designer clothes. Spa trips. $200 brunches with her sister. And $6,000 charged from the very resort they were staying at. It was all there. Receipts don't lie. People do. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table with a legal pad, writing everything out. Not because I didn't have the digital records, I just needed to see it in ink. Needed to feel the weight of every dollar they took from me while smiling to my face. By 2 a.m., I had a full list. $13,000 on her secret credit card, $6,000 charged at the beach resort, $4,000 I gave Ryan for rent, $700 Emma borrowed for textbooks. Turns out it paid for a spa day, every lie, every transfer, every betrayal. The next morning, I called my lawyer. Not the divorce kind, not yet. Just an old friend from college who worked in estate planning. I told him I wanted to separate some assets, move accounts, protect what was mine. He asked, "Everything okay, Greg?" I paused, then said, "Not really. But it will be." We spent an hour on the phone, setting up what he called an emergency split protocol. It allowed me to move my income into a private account, freeze joint cards, and separate my business holdings, all without triggering suspicion too early. While that was happening, I did what they probably thought I'd never do. I posted a photo, not a selfie, not a passive-aggressive caption, just my living room, empty. The table, a bottle of whiskey, one glass, and the words, "When you find out your family went on vacation without you, with your money, on your birthday." It exploded. Friends, coworkers, distant cousins. Even my high school English teacher commented, "Greg, this can't be real. I'm so sorry." That post reached over 40,000 people in 2 days. And then, of course, Madison saw it. She didn't message me. She called. First words out of her mouth? Not "I'm sorry." Not "let's talk." Not even "you're overreacting." No. She said, "Why would you humiliate us like that?" Us? Us? I hung up the phone. An hour later, Ryan texted, "Couldn't you have just talked to us privately instead of blasting it to everyone?" I replied, "Like you talked to me when you took my birthday money to rent a cabana in Cancun?" He left me on read. Emma tried a different angle. She sent a voice message crying, of course, saying she didn't mean to hurt me, that they were just trying to have a little fun before things got too heavy. What was supposed to get heavy? Apparently, Madison had been planning to ask for a separation after the trip. Emma knew. They all knew. The vacation wasn't just a celebration, it was a farewell tour. And they were using my money to fund it. That's when something inside me shifted. I wasn't the angry dad anymore, or the hurt husband. I was done being the easy one, the dependable one, the one they counted on to stay quiet while they walked all over me. So I did something none of them expected. I filed for divorce. And this time, I didn't do it quietly. My next post? A photo of the signed petition stamped by the county clerk. Turns out I wasn't invited on the vacation, but I'm still paying for my freedom. 2 days after filing for divorce, I had Madison served at the resort. She was mid-brunch, apparently, sitting poolside in a floral wrap and sunglasses, when the hotel concierge handed her the envelope. She opened it thinking it was some kind of complimentary upgrade. According to the hotel staff, she screamed. Caused a full-on scene. Knocked over a mimosa. Ryan posted nothing that day. Emma went dark. I didn't care what they felt in that moment. I cared that for the first time in 2 decades, I'd made a decision for myself. I stayed quiet after that publicly. Deleted the viral posts, not out of guilt, but because I didn't need a crowd anymore. I'd said what I needed to say. But people kept messaging. Old coworkers, golf buddies, even my brother, who I hadn't spoken to in 5 years, texted, heard what happened. You good? I was better than good. The accounts were split. My lawyer locked down everything Madison couldn't touch. The house was half mine, but I let her keep it. I didn't want to live where I'd been forgotten. I bought a small place just outside Asheville. Quiet. Clean air. A porch with a view. I started waking up with the sun instead of to the sound of someone asking me for money. But Madison didn't take it well. She showed up at my office one day, unannounced, furious, crying. I gave you my life, she screamed in the parking lot. You think you can just walk away like I'm nothing? I didn't raise my voice. I looked her in the eyes and said, you did give me something. You gave me a reason to stop ignoring the truth. She didn't have a response. She got back in her leased SUV, which I'd been paying for, and drove away. Emma texted that night. Said she didn't want to lose me. Said she missed how things used to be. I replied with one question. Did you ever plan to include me in your goodbye? She never answered. Ryan didn't even try. I wasn't surprised. The hardest part wasn't losing them. It was accepting I never really had them to begin with. I'd been a provider, a background character in their lives, a safety net they used and forgot. But I wasn't a safety net anymore. I was the one walking forward. After that parking lot showdown, I expected things to go quiet. But Madison didn't disappear. She didn't retreat. No, she regrouped. Within a week, she'd hired a divorce attorney and tried to freeze our joint accounts. Joke was on her. My lawyer had already moved everything I could months before. She started calling my siblings, our friends, even my elderly parents, painting me as unstable. Saying I'd snapped on my birthday, had a breakdown, was trying to destroy the family. She cried to her sister Willow, the same one who toasted to my absence poolside. Said she was scared I'd show up and take everything. I didn't need to take anything. She was losing it all on her own. A month later, the divorce was finalized. Clean cut. No alimony. No property disputes. I let her keep the house with the mortgage still on her name. Good luck with that. The beach vacation had maxed out her card. The car payments were late. Ryan's rent check bounced twice. Emma dropped out of school after missing too many classes. It was like their golden world started rusting the moment I walked away. But I didn't watch them fall. I was busy building. I put my energy into something real, started mentoring young guys in similar shoes, divorced dads, overworked breadwinners, guys who had given their all and been left with nothing but guilt. We met every Thursday. Small group at first, 5 of us, then 10. Soon, we had dozens of men signing up for Zoom calls, writing anonymous letters, showing up to just be heard. I created a space for the forgotten, for the background characters, for the steady men who had been quietly holding the world together until the people they loved decided they didn't need them anymore. And it changed lives. One guy, Reggie, got custody of his daughter back. Another, Leo, finally left his toxic girlfriend and started his own carpentry business. And me? I started smiling again. But then, about a year after the divorce, I got a knock on my office door. It was Emma. I hadn't heard from her in months. She looked smaller. Not physically, but humbled, tired. No makeup. Eyes red. Can we talk? She asked. I hesitated, then nodded. We sat in my office, the same place she used to come to for help with college essays and to ask for gas money. Now she was here, not asking for anything. Just trying to explain. She told me about the beach. How she'd known about it for weeks. How she didn't have the courage to say no to her mom. How she thought I'd get over it. Then she said something I didn't expect. I didn't think you'd leave. I thought you'd yell, maybe stop talking to us for a while. But not this. That's the problem. They never thought I'd choose myself. She apologized genuinely. Said she was going to therapy. Said she was working full-time now, paying off her debt, trying to figure things out. I believed her. Because for the first time in years, she wasn't trying to manipulate me. She was just being real. I didn't hug her. I didn't cry. But I said this, you don't owe me a perfect version of yourself. You just owe me honesty. That's all I ever wanted. She nodded. And then she left. After Emma left my office, I sat in silence for a long time. Not out of sadness, but because for the first time in over 2 decades, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt like myself again. Not dad. Not provider. Not Greg who pays for everything. Just Greg. I took a few days off after that. No phone. No emails. Just me, the road, and the mountains. I rented a cabin in the Smokies, nothing fancy. No Wi-Fi. No TV. Just a fireplace, a notebook, and the kind of stillness you can't get when people are constantly needing things from you. I wrote everything out. The marriage. The kids. The betrayal. The moments that broke me. The moments that remade me. And I made a promise to myself right there. Never again would I shrink myself to fit into someone else's life. When I came back, I hit the ground running. The men's group I started had tripled in size. We rebranded it, called it The Unchosen. Not because we were unworthy, but because for too long, people around us had acted like we were disposable. We started doing monthly meetups in different cities. I gave talks. Not lectures, just raw, honest conversations. About grief, manhood, fatherhood, silence, rage, and healing. And it was working. One guy flew from Arizona to North Carolina just to shake my hand and say, "You saved my life." I was one bad night away from giving up. I didn't save him. I just told my story. And he saw himself in it. That's the power of truth. Meanwhile, Emma kept showing up. Not for money. Not for sympathy. Just to talk. Sometimes she'd bring coffee. Sometimes she'd just sit with me in the shop and listen to records. I never pushed. Never asked her to take sides. But I noticed she stopped defending her mom. And that silence spoke volumes. As for Madison and Ryan, I hadn't heard from either of them in nearly a year. Then one day, I got an email. From Ryan. Subject line. I messed up. I didn't open it. Not out of spite. I just wasn't interested in his version of events. Because here's the truth. You can only betray someone who still trusts you. And my trust had been spent. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't bitter. I just moved on. I started dating again slowly, cautiously. Nothing serious at first. Just coffee, conversation, connection. And eventually, I met someone. Her name was Leah. She was divorced too. A nurse practitioner. Smart, calm, kind in a way that wasn't performative, the kind of woman who didn't need saving, and didn't ask to be worshipped. Our second date, she asked me, "What's something you've unlearned lately?" I told her that loyalty and self-sacrifice aren't the same thing. She smiled like she understood that more deeply than she let on. It was the first time in a long time I didn't feel like I had to audition for someone's approval. And that was the beginning of a new chapter. One afternoon, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it ring. Then I checked voicemail. It was Madison. Her voice was different, lower, tired. She said she was sorry for everything. Said she wasn't calling to get anything from me. Said she just wanted to let me know. Her mother had passed. The same woman who toasted my absence on the beach. I didn't feel joy. Or sadness. Or anything, really. I just sat there, listening to her voice crack as she said, "You didn't deserve any of it." It didn't change what happened. It didn't erase the pain. But it was the first time she'd acknowledged it without deflecting, blaming, or gaslighting. I deleted the voicemail. Not out of spite, but because I didn't need it anymore. That version of my life was gone. By then, The Unchosen had grown into something I never imagined. We had chapters in 17 cities. Real men with real pain, showing up for one another without shame. We partnered with mental health groups, ran weekend retreats, and built a scholarship fund for young men pursuing trade careers. Guys who once sat in silence at our first meetings were now leading discussions, mentoring others. One of them, a guy named Marcus, told me, "I came here after my wife left me on Christmas morning. I was going to check out for good. Then I watched your story on YouTube. It gave me just enough strength to call someone." I didn't say anything. I just hugged him. Because I knew that version of pain. And I knew how it felt to come back from it. One day, Emma showed up at my house with a small cardboard box. Inside were old photos. Me, holding her as a baby. Our first Christmas as a family. A picture I didn't even remember taking, me asleep on the couch with both kids passed out on my chest. "I found these in Mom's garage," she said. Didn't feel right for her to keep them. We sat on the porch flipping through the memories. She didn't cry. Neither did I. We'd both done our crying. This was different. This was healing. Before she left, she turned and asked, "Do you ever miss it? The way it was?" I took a long breath. "No," I said. "But I miss the idea of it." She nodded. "I get that." We didn't talk about Ryan. That silence stayed between us like an invisible agreement. Some things don't need to be reopened to be resolved. A few months later, I got married again. Small ceremony. Just me, Leah, and 20 people who actually wanted to be there. Emma stood beside me. Not as a bridesmaid. Just as family. And for the first time in decades, I didn't feel like I was trying to hold anything together. I wasn't walking on eggshells or budgeting joy around someone else's expectations. I was just happy, uncomplicated, undeniable, real. People ask me if I ever got closure. I tell them no. I became the closure. Because you don't always get the apology. You don't always get the answers. Sometimes, you just stand up from the table, the one you were never really invited to, and build your own. One where you're wanted, respected, loved without conditions. And if that's not the best revenge, I don't know what is.